Chapter 891. Get someone to investigate Union's matter. Lin Che thought that she was thinking too much. Perhaps Nianian was still sensible. Although he doted on Union, he really did not know what love was at such a young age. Lin Che patted Nianian's small head. All right, do you want to eat something? Should I buy you some hazelnut chocolate? All right then. That night, Lin Che looked over Nianian's homework for him. She left after saying good night to him. Gu Jingze only lifted his head from behind his desk after watching Lin Che leave. What did she mean by Union becoming his younger sister? Gu Jingze snapped his fingers twice and someone immediately jumped in through the window. He looked at Gu Jingze and asked, "What instructions does little young master have for me?" "Help me investigate this matter. Is there any information on who Union's biological father is? Also, what have my parents been up to recently? And what does this have to do with Union?" "Yes, little young master." Nianian watched his secret guard leave nimbly and thought to himself that his grandfather had sent him quite a useful person. Black Hawk was still recuperating at Chen Yucheng's place currently. Dealing with matters concerning him was a little complicated as well, so Lin Che did not get herself involved again. It was better for Gu Jingze to slowly think it through on his own. As for her, she was going to continue filming her movie. On set, the atmosphere was joyous and harmonious and made Lin Che feel very comfortable. Once she was comfortable, she was also very efficient when filming. She was in a fairly good condition as well. She was very immersed in her role and often completed her scenes in one take. The staff on the set respected her wholeheartedly as well. Lin Che knew that things were proceeding so smoothly only because she had once again gotten back into the groove of filming. She was very glad as well and was in high spirits at the moment. Meanwhile, the reality show that Yu Minmin had arranged earlier also called for her to do a screen test. Lin Che went to the screen test for the reality show along with Abby. As Yu Minmin was not around, Abby was her temporary manager. Abby was so busy bustling about as well and her hands were completely full. However, she prioritized matters that concerned Lin Che. When they arrived at the location of the screen test, Lin Che met with the director of the reality show. The director's surname was Fang. He looked at Lin Che and assessed her. It was their first time meeting because they had not worked together before. He was not familiar with Lin Che either. He only gave her a chance because she was under Yu Minmin's management, so he felt that he had to show due respect for Yu Minmin. Lin Che was very popular, but he was also afraid that she would not cooperate and behave arrogantly. The director was quite happy to see that she had only brought one manager with her today, unlike some celebrities who brought a whole entourage with them. Just looking at them annoyed him. It was fine when such people were only involved in acting. When they actually participated in a reality show, they were very troublesome. This would not do, that would not do. An entire production crew was not even enough to wait upon one such person. Of course, that was not feasible. This reality show was about a few celebrities being sent elsewhere for 2 days and 2 nights. They had to earn their own money and each person was only given $30 for their expenses. They were given a car and were considered to have completed their mission when they arrived at the appointed destination. This was a very tough reality show itinerary. Now, netizens had strict demands. Even though several locations would intentionally be made slightly easier, people would raise objections if it was too easy, so the trip would definitely be tough. The director said, "Young girls like you care about your bodies and your image. Can you withstand this?" Lin Che smiled and said, "Well, as long as the request is reasonable, I will definitely do the best I can. If it's unreasonable, for instance, if you insist on having me go into the water to catch fish while I'm naked, then I definitely can't do it." Haha, that will not happen, but you will be living together with a few young men, so inconveniences will be inevitable. There are so many staff members filming and so many female producers too. At most, it will only be inconvenient for me to change my clothes and to use the washroom. I can still resolve these easily. It's the same as our military training in the past. That's great. You should know that our reality show is very popular. Even though our cast is not particularly strong, the female role will definitely receive a lot of attention. Because you're the only girl, everyone will definitely pay a lot of attention to you, so quite a few people want this role. Lin Che could tell that he was trying to elevate the program to prevent Lin Che from acting all self-important. Furthermore, many directors put on airs too. Some looked down on popular actors because a director was in a different position from the actor. Not only did actors and celebrities have to perform, but they also had to create hype and promote their works too. However, a director was just a commander behind the scenes. He was in a different position and had a different take on things, so of course, he had a different way of thinking as well. Lin Che said, "Don't worry. I can also guarantee that among the female actresses now, you won't find another person who is funnier and can work with you better than I can. I'm very confident about that. We didn't randomly choose this reality show either. I received quite a few offers for reality shows, but I took a fancy to this one because it was appealing to me. There isn't much pretense and it's interesting. Furthermore, I think that everyone genuinely wants to film a reality show that is up to standard. That's why I want to participate." Lin Che looked at the director. "You can take a look at my past appearances on reality shows. You can also look at the positive comments and the number of fans I have online and then compare it with other people. This is your program. I believe that you're the one who wants the program to become the most popular, so you will definitely make the best judgment." Naturally, Lin Che was neither haughty nor humble as she looked at the director. Although she was here for a screen test, she could not be led by her nose either. If she placed herself in a disadvantageous position, she would be in trouble if the show actually made an unreasonable demand in the future. The director froze. He was momentarily stunned by her powerful aura. However, her aura was not the arrogant and loathsome kind, and it seemed to somewhat convince him. He looked at the numbers and gazed at her. He had to admit that amongst the numerous female celebrities who had come for the screen test, she really gave off the most pleasant feeling. Furthermore, she had only put on a bit of light makeup for the screen test today. Her skin looked extraordinarily good too. Regardless of whether she was in light makeup or was bare-faced, she would probably look very good on screen. This was also good for the program. The director's expression became much more relaxed. He said to her, "All right. Miss Lin, I'm really looking forward to working with you. Well then, thank you for taking the time to come here. That's what I should do. You can take your time to consider it and let me know of the result no matter what it is." Lin Che left with Abby in tow. Abby asked, "What does he mean? Does he want to go back on his word because Minmin didn't come along? Is he not going to choose us?" Lin Che said, "That's enough. Since he's thinking about the program, he will have someone in mind that he thinks is the most suitable choice. We've done what we could. We'll just have to see what his choice is later. Just like when two people are in a relationship, wishful thinking on one person's part will not suffice. When it comes to a reality show, we have to see if we're on the same page too. If he really doesn't choose us, then there's no point for us to approach him either." Chapter 892. She could not believe they had actually added a scene for Situ Chong. Abby felt that what she said made sense too. That's right. We're not lacking in money anyway. We don't necessarily have to appear in their program. We're just doing it to decorate something that's already perfect. It's not as if we will fail if we don't get this job. We should stand our ground more. The two of them walked out while talking. However, they saw a woman in high heels walking towards them. She was in heavy makeup and was dressed in branded clothes from head to toe. For a moment, Lin Che even thought that she was a stranger until she looked straight at them. Only then did Lin Che realize. Wasn't that Yang Lingxin? No, she should call her Yang Ling now. She had already caught a glimpse of Lin Che and was even making her way over unceremoniously. "Hey, I heard that you're starting to film reality shows too." Lin Che smiled. "News travels quite quickly." Yang Ling said, "Of course. Since returning, you caused such an uproar. I'm not the only one paying attention to you, but it's such a pity that you lost your role as the female lead to someone else in your first drama. Until now, you haven't had any works at all. It's really very disappointing." Lin Che said, "So you've been paying attention to me. Then, I've really disappointed you. But I'm not afraid of waiting for a good production." Beside her, Abby said, "Precisely. We don't need that petty cash either. If there's a drama, we'll take up the offer. If there are no good productions, then forget it. But some people are different. After all, they want to be dressed in branded goods from head to toe, so they have to take up every offer even if it's a bad production." Yang Ling looked at her with a piercing gaze. Abby stood there and merely rolled her eyes. Yang Ling asked, why don't I see you Minmin anymore? She replaced herself with such a smart-mouthed lass. Did she give up on you and go off to manage other people because she felt that you wouldn't become famous? No need to trouble yourself with our matters. Minmin doesn't need to make anyone famous either. She will do it if she wants to and she won't do it if she doesn't want to. Anyway, we can make a living in the entertainment industry. It's only a matter of whether we want or not, Lin Che said. Yang Ling narrowed her eyes. She knew that she could not win the argument against her. She was Gu Jingze's wife and Yu Minmin was the first lady. These were immutable facts. They definitely had the money to support whatever lifestyle they wanted and did not need to work themselves to death. Since this was a fact, no one could argue otherwise no matter who they were. Thus, what was the use of arguing otherwise? Yang Ling could only scoff. She proceeded to smile and say, I wonder if this reality show will become famous. I do hope that you can become popular. Otherwise, in your half-dead state, it won't be any fun for me to defeat you, right? Oh, by the way, what a coincidence. Both of our reality shows are produced by the same company, but I was invited here and I came specifically to sign the contract today. Take your time to do your screen test. When she finished speaking, she strutted past both of them. Abby said, look at the way she's showing off like a turkey. Ultimately, she's not a good person. She has no class at all. As long as it's branded, she will put it on her body and think that she's stylish. The branded goods are piled on her body in a really chaotic manner. It seems obvious that she's a parvenu. Lin Che asked, is she also here to sign on for a reality show? Abby said, this company has produced 3 reality shows. One of them is even a long-running reality show that garners very high viewer ratings during its broadcast each year. The setup is a little similar to this one, a few men and a few women going on a self-funded trip. But they travel overseas and the arrangement isn't as sad as yours. Last year, I heard that 2 of the female celebrities won't be participating this year. I reckon she was the replacement. I see. Lin Che continued, in that case, it seems that she has been doing quite well over the past 2 years. She had always had very good resources. I don't know why. Perhaps it has something to do with the sponsor backing her up. After the 2 of them returned to the company, Lin Che received a call from Shen Yoren saying that she was on her way. Before long, Shen Yoren arrived. She looked at Lin Che and asked, when will you take Black Hawk away? Lin Che asked, what happened? Did he bring you any trouble? She knew that Black Hawk was still staying at Chen Yucheng's office for treatment. Shen Yoren said, he himself is huge trouble. The office has been completely locked down recently. It's just like a prison. It's so annoying. Furthermore, some people with information keep coming over to investigate for no reason. Just because of Black Hawk, our office is literally at the heart of the struggle now. Lin Che shrugged. About that, Gu Jingze only trusts Chen Yucheng. And Black Hawk is very important to him too. So it seems that he can only stay in your office for the time being. Shen Yoren lay sprawled out on the couch. Lin Che said, by the way, regarding what we discussed the last time about setting up a film production company, what do you think? Oh, I thought about it and I told Chen Yucheng about it too. He thinks that I don't have to worry too much about the 2 kids and he doesn't have much work at the office either, so it's definitely alright for me to do my own thing. That's great. That means that he has agreed too. We can make preparations to start up the company, right? Yes, but I'm not very familiar with the procedure. How much exactly do I have to invest and how do I invest? Lin Che said, you won't have to invest much either. Most of the time, we will have to attract investors to film productions. In the initial stages, you won't need to invest much. We can support our operations completely through the dividends from my company. If your family invests a little more, then that will be making perfection more perfect. Of course not. You're investing so much but we're only investing a little. If you invest all the dividends from your company into this one but I invest very little, I'll feel bad, she said. Lin Che said, it's nothing really. I don't spend much money anyway. All my expenses at home are paid for by someone else too. I would just save up the money anyway. Shen Yoren said, oh, that makes sense too. The company president in your family won't want your small dividends either. Well then, I will invest less money and more manpower instead. Lin Che said, seriously. I was just being polite. Are you really not going to invest money? Invest more. There's no point for your family to store away all its money too. The two of them chattered away happily for some time. Thereafter, they decided to actually start going through the formalities and setting up the film production company. Subsequently, Lin Che returned to the film set to continue filming. She was actually filming a scene with Situ Chong today. After he had made a cameo, Nan Gongyu added a scene for him, seeing as he had performed pretty well. The scene involved him and Lin Che. Everyone looked at the two of them and recalled that Situ Chong had confessed directly to Lin Che before. Could Situ Chong have forced Nan Gongyu to add this scene? In any case, everyone was watching the fun except for Lin Che, who gazed at Situ Chong gloomily. The script didn't have this scene at first. Why did you butt in? Situ Chong said, it's mainly because I look good. Chapter 893, you even have a scene together. Lin Che said gloomily, I think you're going to have trouble immersing yourself in your role. Situ Chong crossed his arms over his chest. That depends on whether or not you act professional. Lin Che could not believe him. She looked at him before glancing at the staff still staring at them from behind. She had no choice but to start filming. Sure enough, the moment she saw Situ Chong, she broke character easily. It was no wonder that she broke character when this man who was not a professional actor insisted on gazing at her so gently when they were clearly not acting out a love scene. She felt that she was about to be thoroughly tortured. They filmed the scene over and over again as well. Nan Gongyu knew that she was not to blame. After all, she basically got into the groove very quickly for all her scenes and finished filming them in no time. This scene with Situ Chong was the only scene that she was persistently unable to immerse herself in. Nan Gongyu stopped filming. I think the two of you better move aside and get into the right mood before filming again. Lin Che glared at Situ Chong and grumbled to Nan Gongyu at the same time, Director, why don't you just delete his scenes? Nan Gongyu shrugged. We've already decided on them. That scene is so good. You better get into the right mood. Left with no choice, Lin Che moved to the side with Situ Chong. They sat together and started talking. Situ Chong drank something while looking at Lin Che. This really isn't my fault. I'm filming properly. You're the one who keeps getting bloopers. Lin Che asked, you still have the cheek to say that? Why did you come here to make a cameo instead of just being the company president you are? I think that being a president isn't even as fun as making a cameo. Oh, by the way, has the matter between the Gu family and the Yun family been resolved? How did you know? Lin Che looked at him. Situ Chong said, you forgot that the Yun family is related to us. Oh, right, only then did Lin Che recall that Situ Chong even called Yun Luo his younger cousin. Situ Chong said, I realized that the Yun family hasn't come out of their house recently. It seems like Gu Jingze taught them a lesson. I don't know if he taught them a lesson. I only know that the Yun family put themselves in that predicament. These relatives of yours are as unreliable as you are. Hey. They're very distant relatives of mine too. You can't just knock us all down with one stroke. But after this disturbance dies down, Gu Jingze's reputation will only grow greater. This is a good thing and a bad thing too. The good thing is that after his position stabilizes, you will have an easier time in the future. The bad thing is that with a greater reputation, there will definitely be more women lusting after him. You must be more careful. Nonsense. Regardless of who lusts after him, I know that he will not touch any other woman, Lin Che said. Situ Chong chuckled. You really trust him a lot. Lin Che wanted to say that it was not trust but absolute trust, because he couldn't touch any other woman anyway. The two of them were talking and did not expect. Situ Chong turned around and squinted his eyes. Oh, speak of the devil. The person outside is Gu Jingze, right? Lin Che turned to look. It was definitely Gu Jingze's car. It was right outside the film city. Lin Che recognized his subordinates with a glance and naturally recognized his car as well. Lin Che said, I'll go over and take a look. She quickly sprang up and ran over. Hello, madam. Gu Jingze's subordinate bowed respectfully to her. The door opened and Gu Jingze looked at Lin Che. Who's that? Situ Chong. Lin Che fiddled with her ear. Yes. Gu Jingze's face darkened immediately. Why is he here? Lin Che said, about that, he's filming here. Gu Jingze looked at her. You're filming with him? Lin Che immediately noticed the expression on his face turning more and more gloomy. She could tell that his anger was quietly intensifying. Lin Che hastily said, he just came to make a cameo. He'll leave after a few scenes. Lin Che still wanted to know why he was here. But Gu Jingze stared unwaveringly behind Lin Che. Lin Che froze before quickly turning around. As expected, she saw Satu Chong making his way over. Little Che, we're still not finished filming. Don't leave, Satu Chong said. Little Che. Gu Jingze's brow furrowed tightly as he looked at Satu Chong. When did the third young master of the Satu family become a celebrity? Satu Chong looked at Gu Jingze. Oh, this is just my hobby. Gu Jingze said, you have such a special hobby. Those who don't know better would think that you want to continue clinging to Lin Che. Satu Chong asked, are you trying to control Lin Che's work life as well? As expected of the head of the household, you're even more domineering than you were before. Of course, I don't care about Lin Che's work life. But if there's a stray cat or dog around her, I still have to get involved. When Gu Jingze traced the car with his fingers, his movements appeared lazy but his gaze was stern. Hearing this, Satu Chong's expression changed completely. Who are you calling a stray cat and dog? Gu Jingze tilted his head and retorted, who do you think? You. Satu Chong nearly stepped forward out of anger. Gu Jingze would definitely not back down either. Lin Che quickly held Gu Jingze back. She turned to look at Satu Chong and said, go in. What are you doing? Satu Chong said, he called me a cat and a dog. Why are you criticizing me? Lin Che really had a headache. That's enough. If you continue to stir up trouble, I'll ignore you. Go in quickly. Gu Jingze looked at Satu Chong. You're the one who took my comment as a personal attack. It seems like you are quite self-aware. Gu Jingze. Lin Che hastily turned her head. That's enough, Gu Jingze. Gu Jingze's gaze turned sharp. But he respected Lin Che and pursed his lips without saying a word. Lin Che quickly pushed Satu Chong inside. Go in quickly. Satu Chong huffed but nevertheless went inside in the end. Lin Che turned around and held her forehead. Gu Jingze, we're just filming. And he's just here to make a cameo. Furthermore, we're just friends. You. Yes, he's your friend and I'm the one who's butting in. While saying this, Gu Jingze pulled open the car door directly and sat inside. Seeing the situation, Lin Che quickly tried to follow him. However, Gu Jingze was actually so heartless as to close the door immediately. In a moment of anxiousness, Lin Che placed her arm on the door swiftly. When the door closed, Lin Che's hand was trapped as well. Oh no, Lin Che started shouting. Gu Jingze's eyes flashed. He quickly pulled the door open and looked anxiously at Lin Che who was blowing on her hand. What the hell? Gu Jingze got out of the car and quickly examined Lin Che's hand. In actual fact, Lin Che felt some pain. But it was more of an exaggeration. Gu Jingze pulled her hand and saw that it was no big deal. There was no sign of injury at all and he completely could not tell why she had to shout so loudly. Gu Jingze dropped her hand, scoffed, and tried to go inside again. This time, Lin Che hugged Gu Jingze's waist from behind in one swift motion. Don't go, Lin Che said. Let go of me. I won't. Don't leave first. Listen to me. I have no interest in what you're about to say. I'm still busy. He pried her arms off him roughly. He dove into the car. This time, Lin Che followed suit immediately. Chapter 894. I really wish she could live in this dream. As for Gu Jingze, he initially wanted to close the door. However, when he thought of how she nearly injured her hand, he still did not close it in the end. Lin Che seized the opportunity to get into the car and stay inside. Gu Jingze, don't be like this. Come on, give me a smile, she said while tugging at Gu Jingze. Gu Jingze shrugged her hand off. Are you going to get out or not? If you don't, I'm going to ask them to drive. Alright, I'll get out. Tell me you're not angry and I'll get out of the car. Gu Jingze glared at her and could not be bothered to say more. He immediately said to the driver, "Drive." "Hey, you," Lin Che looked at him in disbelief. Gu Jingze said, "It's your last chance. Are you still not getting off?" In a fit of pique, Lin Che said immediately, "I'm not getting off." Gu Jingze looked at the driver meaningfully, following which the driver started the car immediately. Seeing the situation, Lin Che hugged Gu Jingze once again. She was wrapped around Gu Jingze's entire body. She was hugging him with her chin resting on his shoulder. The driver was still at the front. The cars in front of them and behind them were fully seated with the Gu family's security guards. Gu Jingze pressed down on her hand. "Let go." "No. Lin Che, do you have any shame at all? I told you to let go." "When have I ever had shame?" Lin Che said, "Say it. Just say one sentence. Just say, 'I'm not angry.' Then, I'll let go immediately." Humph. He was angry. How could he not be? Seeing that he refused to say it, Lin Che had no choice but to hug him even tighter and sway his body back and forth. "Don't be angry. Don't be angry. We're just filming. We're just making friends. We didn't even touch on any deep topics in our conversations. We were always talking about other wealthy families. The Yun family, we definitely didn't talk about life, dreams, or anything like that. They were even chatting." Gu Jingze frowned and nudged her hand. "Let go of me, if you don't." Lin Che looked up. "If I don't, what will you do? Are you going to push me out of the car?" "Humph, I have never even bothered about those cats and dogs around you. Especially those women who approach you for no reason, like dogs that smell meat who look like they are just itching to devour you immediately." Gu Jingze said, "There are no such women." "What about Miss Yun Tilda?" Gu Jingze said, "I've never even touched her. But she's such a bad person. And her intention to snatch you from me is so obvious. Yet you still want to do research on her heart valve." "That's because. But at the very least Satu helps me out. He's a good person. Furthermore, he and I are just friends right now. But you don't even allow this. You allow someone to steal a horse but you prohibit another from looking over a hedge." Gu Jingze looked at her. "Stop twisting the facts like that." "I'll twist them. I'll twist them. Anyway, you're not allowed to continue being angry. You're not allowed to be angry. If you continue to be angry." Lin Che's arm was still around him. However, at least he had now given up on resisting her and sat there unmoving. Lin Che said, "If you dare to get angry again, I'll bite you to death." "Humph." Gu Jingze said, "Is there anyone who threatens people like you do? How dare she threaten to bite him to death when he was angry?" Lin Che wriggled her nose. "Anyway, you're not allowed to be angry." Gu Jingze fidgeted again as if attempting to break free. Lin Che hugged him even tighter. Gu Jingze frowned and looked at this little woman. Lin Che asked, "Besides, could it be that you don't have enough confidence? Do you think that you're no match for him?" "Gu Jingze, you can't think that way. Even though Satu is good in my heart, he's not at all comparable to you." "Really? Because you're so handsome and you're such a good person too. You're so rich and you're even particularly charismatic. Your figure is so great and you have such a good temper too." Gu Jingze looked down at her. "You're exaggerating way too much." He pushed her. "It just sounds fake." "How can that be? I'm telling the absolute truth. Could it be that you don't think the same? I've always felt this way. I just never verbalized it." She looked up and blinked at him. "Look at my honest eyes." Gu Jingze scoffed. However, he nevertheless shook his head speechlessly as he looked at her. Lin Che took the chance to hug him tightly again. Gu Jingze pushed her away in annoyance. But this time, he merely pushed her away for the sake of it and stopped thereafter. They arrived at the Gu residence and alighted from the car. Lin Che was still clinging onto him shamelessly. She looked at him as if she was kissing up to him. Gu Jingze knew that her earlier words were definitely not completely true. They were not believable at all. However, he still felt pretty satisfied when he heard such words from her. Gu Jingze said, "Next time, stay further away from him." I know. We're just friends. The distance between us is also definitely the usual distance between friends." Furthermore, you must have some confidence too. When a man appears, you shouldn't feel that he's better than you and that I'll definitely run away with him. Gu Jingze huffed before striding in again. Lin Che frantically caught up with him. Behind them, the driver and the security guards looked at the two of them and could not resist the urge to laugh. When it came to Madam, Sir was truly easy to cajole. A few obviously fake compliments were sufficient to satisfy Sir. Gu Jingze was really weak against her. But he also knew that Lin Che's words were right. How could she possibly have some affair with Situ Chong? She was not the type of person who would flirt, to begin with. However, he simply felt upset. He felt upset whenever he saw her with any other man. When he thought about it rationally, it was really nothing. But when he looked at them, he would inevitably be jealous. In any case, as long as a male appeared near her, he would definitely feel an immediate sense of danger. Lin Che said, "Look, I even came here directly from the film set because of you. I'll probably get scolded by the director when I go back later." Gu Jingze reached out and tapped her forehead forcefully. "You still have the cheek to say that?" Lin Che smiled sheepishly and stuck her tongue out at him. Then she asked, "Why were you at the film set earlier? Were you looking for me?" "HN, since you're already out, let's eat together." "HN, alright, let me call the production crew to inform them." After making the call, Lin Che asked Gu Jingze, "Did you get a line on Black Hawk's matters when you went home?" Gu Jingze nodded. "Indeed, grandfather knows about the matter. Father also said that he wants to find out about the child, but his lips are completely sealed as to who the infant is. Black Hawk is telling the truth. I can sense it. Everything tallies except one thing. My mother never knew that my father once had another woman. Right now, she still thinks that father is a loyal and upright man. But he even had a child with someone else." Lin Che felt some tenderness for Mu Wanqing. "Then, are we going to tell mother about this? Even if we are going to, we must wait until the truth surfaces too. Right now, there are still many things that we haven't found out. It's better not to tell her for the time being." Lin Che said, "If it's possible, I hope that mother doesn't find out about this for the rest of her life. Then, perhaps she will continue living in this dream and feel that father was at least loyal towards her." Gu Jingze said, "But if Black Hawk's family background is revealed, mother is bound to know." Chapter 895, What are you doing instead of filming properly? Lin Che asked, "What should we do then? Since it's a fact, she will find out sooner or later too. Mother has the right to know these things too." Lin Che thought it made sense as well. Even if it was a white lie, if she was the one who had been deceived, she would definitely feel very upset as well. She would rather know the truth and then deal with it properly. After eating with Gu Jingze personally sent Lin Che back to the film set. When they arrived at the set, Lin Che got out of the car, but Gu Jingze called out to her again. Puzzled, Lin Che turned around to look at him. Only then did Gu Jingze say, "I'll send you in." No matter how silly she was, she knew exactly what Gu Jingze was trying to do too. Without allowing her to oppose him, Gu Jingze put his arm around her waist quickly. Lin Che hastily said, "No way. No way. You can send me in, but don't be so intimate, alright? What if someone takes photos and uploads it online?" Gu Jingze glanced at her and released his hold on her waist in the end. Just like that, Lin Che followed him onto the film set. It was not long before members of the production crew were all looking at them in surprise. At the front, Gu Jingze's presence was extraordinary. Lin Che followed behind him and felt that she had simply turned into his lackey. There was no way around it. As long as Gu Jingze was around, he would definitely dominate everything. It was because he had an indestructible kingly aura about him that immediately took hold of everyone else. Lin Che didn't dare to look at the people around them. She merely felt that they had forgotten to close their mouths, not because they were surprised, but because they were frightened. Inside, Situ Chong immediately saw the two of them walking in. He narrowed his eyes as he watched Gu Jingze escort Lin Che inside. Although he was not behaving intimately with her, his gaze when he turned to remind Lin Che of some trivial matters seemed to be a declaration of absolute dominion. In the end, Gu Jingze looked at her tenderly. The domineering way he doted on her melted the hearts of everyone around them immediately. He said, "Go in. Don't tire yourself too much. I'll leave first." "Okay." Gu Jingze glanced at Situ Chong from a distance before walking outside. It was only after Gu Jingze left that everyone started making a fuss. They looked at Lin Che but dared not ask her who it was. They could only speculate amongst themselves. However, even though no one knew who that man was, they could see the luxury cars he drove leave one by one. Each car was worth an awe-inspiring amount of money. Lin Che walked in and looked at Situ Chong. "You really have nothing better to do than to stir up trouble for me." Situ Chong shrugged. He put his hands into his pockets and said, "But you coaxed him so quickly. He's really becoming more and more unprincipled when it comes to you." Lin Che growled at him, "Could it be that you want us to get into a fight?" Situ Chong said, "Hee hee. Haven't you heard that onlookers watching the fun aren't afraid of the situation escalating? But if he really dares to hit you, remember to tell your master. This master of yours won't idle by and watch you get bullied. Get lost." Everyone could not help but look at Lin Che as they discussed who that man was. Could it be Lin Che's boyfriend? Is her boyfriend is also her sponsor? Don't have such twisted thoughts. I think their relationship is quite normal. Perhaps they're just friends. They didn't have much physical contact either. But that man's gaze already proved everything. I'm telling you, you can tell from the man's gaze. He definitely has feelings for the woman if he looks at her like that. Perhaps he's still courting Lin Che. Doesn't Lin Che have many suitors? If so, then Lin Che is definitely lucky. Look at the car that man drove. Every one of them was worth more than $1 million. So many people were following him too. It's obvious from their imposing manner alone that he isn't a typical wealthy businessman. Everyone felt that Lin Che was truly mysterious and unpredictable. However, Nan Gongyu was not happy. He looked inside and shook his head. Then, he shouted at the people inside, "That's enough. Since everyone is here, we'll continue filming. What are you all doing?" Lin Che continued filming bad takes upon her return. Nan Gongyu looked up at her. "Lin Che, everyone has already wasted an afternoon because of your emotions. We'll continue filming if you can control your emotions. If you can't, then wait for us to film the rest first. If you continue like this, then everyone is doing it over and over again with you. Don't you feel embarrassed at all?" Nan Gongyu truly did not like such practice in the entertainment industry. He was a more cultured person. The movies he filmed were also very cultured. He did things in a very cultured way as well. That was why his movies had always been very well received. Because even if he was filming a comedy, he never followed the general trend and filmed a black comedy in his own style. People felt that it was very special. However, he had stopped acting and started work as a director back then precisely because he hated such things. Even though he had initially selected her and felt that she was quite good, he could not help but feel now that he had ultimately selected the wrong person, seeing as there was some influence behind her success. How could anyone in this industry possibly have a clean background? Everyone succeeded in this way. As a result, he was slightly irritated at the moment. Lin Che knew that it was her own fault too. She looked at the director, bowed, and said, "I'm sorry, director. I will adjust my emotions." Seeing that she was in low spirits, Situ Chong walked up to her and said, "Lin Che, is it that difficult for you to act when you look at me? Why, is there something wrong with me?" Lin Che said, "You still have the cheek to say that. You're always looking at me like that. Your emotions were wrong, to begin with. How can I possibly continue acting? How did I look at you? Your gaze is just wrong." Lin Che continued, "You're supposed to look at me with disdain because I'm a liar, but you look at me with a loving gaze. Do you not know what disdain is because you can't act?" Of course, Situ Chong wanted to, but how could he bring himself to look upon her with disdain? He said, "All right, I'll give it a shot." Situ Chong did not mention Lin Che when he looked up and said to Nan Gongyu, "It's my fault, my fault. Director, let's do it again. This time, I will definitely act well. You're not a professional actor, so I will be a little more forgiving towards you no matter what you do. But each profession has its specialty. If you can't act well, then don't be an actor." Lin Che pursed her lips and said to him, "Yes, director." Nan Gongyu only gave the go-ahead to continue when he saw that Lin Che was very humble, behaved very sincerely, and seemed extremely genuine in her apology. This time, Lin Che really eradicated all other thoughts and told herself inside that she was no doubt a professional actress. She had to overcome this obstacle. Who cared who Situ Chong was? Who cared about the expression on his face? Just treat him like a block of wood. Situ Chong also paid much more attention this time. The two of them finally finished the scene in one take and did not make mistakes again. Just as Nan Gongyu had said, as he was not a professional actor, something was still amiss in terms of his emotions no matter what he did. However, at the very least it looked much better. Chapter 896. This program is way too low budget, don't you think? This scene was finally completed after wasting nearly an entire day. When she left, Nan Gongyu did not really bother with her either. Lin Che thought that he was angry about her poor performance today and felt a little upset as well. After returning to her room, Abby called to inform her that the reality show had confirmed her place in the show. The name of the reality show was Traveling Poor, and the cast was basically confirmed already. She could attend the press release once she went to sign the contract. Over the next 2 days, Lin Che was busy with the press conference. On one end, her relationship with the director was not as smooth sailing as it had previously been. However, because everyone was busy, they all went their separate ways to do their jobs after wrapping up filming, so things were pretty much harmonious. On the day of the press conference, as Lin Che was the only female, she was given the role of the goddess among them. The production crew specially prepared an ethereal costume for her so that she looked extremely stunning in it. Of the people participating in the program, one was a personal trainer who was getting very popular lately, one was an industry rookie who had a bit of popularity, one was the ace oldest brother who was a veteran host, one was a celebrity in his 30s who was given the role of a warm-hearted man, and one was a comedy actor whose role was to be funny. Lin Che was another addition to the 5 of them. Each person's image in his or her role was different. Grouped together, the picture they created was pretty peculiar. While Lin Che was preparing backstage, she heard that another program was also having its press conference today. It was this company's most well-known program called, Let's Go on a Trip Together. That program was the program that Yang Ling was participating in. By choosing to have its press conference on the same day, there was some sense of the company competing with itself too. It became a more interesting subject of conversation to outsiders. However, it was actually Yang Ling who had suggested this. After finding out that Lin Che was going to participate in this reality show, she immediately told the director of Let's Go on a Trip Together, in private that she thought it was a good idea to have both programs compete against each other. Furthermore, she even tried to create a rift and said, they're obviously targeting us with their program. If we suggest having the press conference on the same day, we appear to be helping them on the surface by creating hype with our program's attention. In actual fact, we're simply taking them a notch down. Our program has been around for so many years and the viewer ratings have remained consistently high. Since they want to join in, we should show them how capable we are. Hearing this, the director thought that this made complete sense too. Yang Ling sneered and thought to herself that she was participating in this famous program precisely to defeat Lin Che. She wanted to show Lin Che that Lin Che was no match for her in terms of the resources she had now. She knew that although Lin Che had a powerful background, she had never accepted Gu Jingze's assistance. She wanted to appear noble and virtuous and wanted to maintain a good image in front of Gu Jingze. However, this made her path in the entertainment industry way more difficult. When Yang Ling passed by the area, she glanced at Lin Che's appearance, huffed, and said, "Your production crew is way too stingy. This goddess attire of yours looks as cheap as goods from Taobao." Abby was with Lin Che. She looked at Yang Ling, scoffed, and ignored her. Yang Ling headed straight towards her. "But I understand why too. The sponsors for your reality show invested very little money. It's probably because they thought that your show just wouldn't get popular, so it will be hard on you, Sister Che." Abby watched Yang Ling walk away and said to Lin Che, "How disgusting. But I don't know how that show could possibly have chosen her. Ha, we are at a disadvantage since they chose to hold their press conference on the same day. That show has so many fans. They've waited an entire year for the broadcast of the new season. Now, people will pay much less attention to our new show." Lin Che said, when there's a will, there's a way. After so many seasons, a significant number of people are probably slightly sick of the show. Anyway, I feel uncomfortable just looking at how arrogant she is. In no time, the press conference started. There were many people at Yang Ling's press conference. However, she saw that there seemed to be fewer reporters than she had expected and asked the people around her what was going on. The director said a little gloomily. A few of the reporters ran over to the other side when they heard that Lin Che was participating in the show. Yang Ling was immediately angered. What? Was there something wrong with these reporters? They ran off to watch Lin Che instead of watching such a popular program. Yang Ling huffed and turned around to whisper into her assistant's ear. She was definitely going to cause the other production crew to make a blunder. She was going to show everyone which production crew was serious about its program and which production crew merely wanted to produce a subpar program. On the other side, amidst the cheers, Lin Che floated down from above like a goddess. She landed lightly on the ground, stunning everyone momentarily with her appearance. She looked even more striking, especially when contrasted against the men standing around her. When Abby saw the numerous reporters from the back, she also felt an air of pride and satisfaction. It seemed that Lin Che's prediction was right. The reporters preferred something that was a little more novel. Furthermore, Yang Ling had severely underestimated Lin Che's ability to rally people. However, just then Abby saw a vaguely familiar face sneaking out from inside. For a moment, she found it a little strange. After pondering for a bit, she suddenly cried out in alarm. Wasn't that Yang Ling's assistant? They were having a press conference. What was she doing here instead of watching over the celebrity in her charge? Abby paused for a moment. She immediately thought that trouble was brewing. She stood up and walked outside. However, her realization had come too late. A mishap had suddenly occurred on stage. Something caused Lin Che's gown to stick to the ground. A problem had suddenly occurred with an apparatus on the ground, causing it to grip Lin Che's gown directly. The moment Lin Che moved, the gown, which was made of something akin to paper match, was ripped after some pulling. As they looked at the floating material, everyone could not help but gasp at how cheap the dress looked. Everyone could see that it looked like cheap goods from a street stall. Furthermore, it looked alright when it was complete, but for some reason, it looked like it had been pieced together from garbage after it was torn. There was an awkward moment. Off stage, the director was about to lose his mind. No way. How could they be so unlucky? How did the people under him do their jobs? How could the stage apparatus be damaged for no reason? And it had even targeted their goddess. On stage, Lin Che was momentarily speechless as well. When she looked down, she quickly covered her body and glanced down. There was no time for her to respond. The reporters' cameras had recorded everything long ago. Lin Che laughed dryly. She had no choice but to say, "Dear me. Director, is there a goddess like me? How poor is our production crew? This gown is way too cheap, right?" Her words immediately roused the people who were still dumbfounded to their senses. The oldest cast member, the host, was the quickest to react. He looked at her and said, "Director, you turned our goddess into a madwoman. Will we still be able to worship her happily in the future?" The director quickly reacted as well, laughing dryly off stage. Just then, Lin Che was about to start walking when her gown suddenly dragged her backward, causing her to fall off the stage. At this precise moment of imminent peril, Dongzi sprang up on stage as if he was flying. He immediately hugged Lin Che and flew off stage with her in his arms. Then, he looked at her and asked, "Miss, are you all right?" Lin Che was still stunned. Earlier, she had thought that she was going to fall. She could not believe that she could still stand firmly on the ground. For a moment, she was immensely grateful to the heavens. She said while exhaling, "I'm fine, I'm fine." At this moment, the reporters felt that this scene was truly dramatic. The cameras continued flashing and clicking, capturing Dongzi in the lens as well. Chapter 897. Dongzi unexpectedly became famous too. Dongzi froze. He was slightly unaccustomed to being filmed. Seeing that Lin Che was fine, Dongzi quickly bowed in front of the lens. Thereafter, with one arm on the stage to support himself, he jumped off the stage swiftly in a dashing manner. "Wow, he's so handsome." Everyone felt that his movements were really dashing and quickly took photographs. Lin Che had not expected this either. For a moment, she stood there and said, "Hey, hey, hey. Don't take photographs of him. Take photographs of me. I put so much effort into generating hype. Why aren't you taking photographs of me?" Everyone laughed out loud. In comparison to the solemn atmosphere on the other side, the extraordinary bustle on this side immediately made it seem as if there was more to talk about here. Several reporters quickly made their way over to watch the fun as well. On the other side, the director hastily ended the press conference in advance when he saw that the situation was not ideal. Once the interview segment was over, he announced the end of the press conference. Meanwhile, on this side, after the press conference ended, reporters and fans swiftly uploaded clips of the press conference online. In no time, news about the production crew having a low budget and Lin Che's bodyguard became trending topics. The response to Lin Che calling the production crew poor was very good. No one felt any sense of embarrassment at all. Instead, they discussed the topic frankly, amusing everyone greatly. Apart from that, the video of Lin Che falling off the stage was extremely beautiful. It seemed like an actual action movie. Jingze immediately flew over and caught her in his arms. His nimble movements were swift, stable, and did not look unappealing at all. It made the scene look very impactful. Everyone felt that this bodyguard was very impressive. His movements were also dashing and he was handsome too. In the first place, fangirls had a bit of a thing for men in uniforms. The moment they saw him, they immediately associated him with those brilliant and mysterious bodyguards. They thought that he was definitely very amazing. During the time, a simple search of keywords concerning him would result in numerous comments about Jingze. Is that Lin Che's bodyguard? He's so handsome. He looks a lot like a teenage idol. Despite his young age, his skills are really good. I felt like I was watching a blockbuster. This is what they call an action movie. Please tell me if these bodyguards are high-level bodyguards. How much money do they charge per month? I really want someone as handsome as him to protect me. Lin Che saw the way everyone was besotted and could not help the urge to laugh. Just then, when she saw Jingze come in, she looked up at him and said, "Impressive. You really became famous this time. You haven't seen it yet, right? Photographs of you and comments about you are all over the internet." Hearing this, Jingze's first response was to freeze. Thereafter, his face turned red. He blushed bashfully like a girl. Lin Che found it particularly amusing. She said, "It seems like we have hopes of finding you a wife. Look at it, so many people are asking for your phone number. They want to contact you and look for a husband like you." Jingze's face turned even redder when he heard this. He looked at Lin Che and quickly stuttered, I swore to protect Miss to death. Personal matters like these are not worth considering right now." Upon seeing how he had actually started talking about the matter seriously while blushing, Lin Che laughed even more. "Jingze, you're way too cute. But when I look closely at you, Jingze, you're indeed quite handsome." Although he had always given off a very dependable aura, he really gave off a different feeling when he put on a suit. His face had a sense of maturity about it and even had an air of seriousness. She recalled the first time she had met him in a nation back then. He had still been a simple and honest village youth. He had indeed looked unsophisticated then. But now, he had changed completely. When Jingze groomed himself, he was also a clean-cut, good-looking young man. Lin Che suggested, "Why don't we actually find you a wife among these girls?" No way. Miss, don't tease me. I genuinely want to protect Miss with all my heart. I have no other thoughts at all." He had an expression of determination on his face. He looked at her as if he wished he could take his heart out and show it to her. He looked as if he was resolved to be loyal to her. Lin Che felt that he was way too serious and hastily said, all right. Looking for a wife is one of the important things in life too. But you're still young, so we can slowly find a wife for you. Why are you getting anxious? I'm not trying to chase you away either, right?" Jingze looked at Lin Che. "Miss, I'm really very content that I was able to leave from that remote and desolate place and attain what I have today. My gratitude towards you is something I cannot describe in words. I'm not good with words and I don't know how to express myself either. Anyway, I have always treated you as the benefactor of my sister and me. Lin Che's heart clenched as well. She felt that the word, benefactor, carried too heavy a weight. Dongzi, don't say that. Back then, Gu Jingze and I didn't die in a nation all because of your help. We were the ones who led the evil people there and caused your father to die from a bullet wound. I have always blamed myself immensely and thought that perhaps your father would not have died had we not gone there. Miss, you're the one who shouldn't say that. Even though I came from a remote and desolate place, my mother taught me right from wrong when I was young too. I know that both of you are not to blame for these things. Furthermore, ever since my father died, the two of you have really been very good to me and my sister. You and Mr. Gu are people of such high status, to begin with, and are far more superior than we are. You could have totally pretended not to know us and given us money as compensation to resolve the matter. Many people in our village go out to work and die on a worksite away from home, but each person only gets a few 100,000 as compensation too. However, you treated us and my grandmother so well too. You brought us to C Nation, and after bringing us here, you funded our studies, gave us places in the best schools, let my grandmother live in a huge house that she had never lived in, and even found someone to wait upon her. Miss Linda even brought me to the military school and allowed me to fulfill a childhood dream I never thought I would fulfill. These are all things that I had never dared to imagine. But our dreams all came true because of you and Mr. Gu. Lin Che looked at him and felt that Dongzi was really a very good young man. He was so upright and so simple. She smiled and said, "Looks like I really have to take charge of finding you a wife in the future. You're so silly, you'll definitely fall into someone's trap when you look for a wife in the future." Dongzi did not know how Lin Che had returned to this topic again. Lin Che smiled. "Alright, I won't tease you any longer. Let's stop debating about who is helping who. In any case, it's fate that brought us together. Since you're one of my personal bodyguards, you're also part of my family. In the future, we'll work hand in hand and live a better life, right?" "Yes, miss. I will definitely work hard to become your best personal guard." As he said this, Dongzi stood straight and made her want to laugh even more. Lin Che scrolled through the comments on her phone. "Good lord, you're famous now. I really didn't expect everyone to be so interested in you." Chapter 898. Help me investigate Yang Lingxin's matter. Dongzi was a little frightened and hastily asked, "Miss, what do I do then?" Lin Che said, "Silly boy. That's nothing. At most, you'll have to wear a mask when you go out in the future." Hearing this, Dongzi really wanted to cry. Just then, Gu Jingze walked in. Upon seeing Dongzi's sad expression, Lin Che laughed out loud and said, "Quick, look. I'm laughing to death at Dongzi's expression." Gu Jingze walked in and came to Lin Che's side. "What happened?" Lin Che leaned into his side and explained the situation briefly to him. After Dongzi heard this, he remained in a melancholic mood beside them. Gu Jingze raised an eyebrow and looked at Dongzi. "Alright, there's nothing to worry about either. Anyway, your miss was a public figure, to begin with. As long as you're with her, it will be difficult for you not to become famous too. Unless you hope that your miss will lose her popularity. If that's the case, it doesn't matter if you get famous now either." Dongzi could only respond affirmatively with a troubled expression. Lin Che told Dongzi to leave first. Then, she leaned back and could not stop laughing. "Good gracious, Dongzi is really too cute." She continued, Look. Everyone is saying that Dongzi's movements are really cool. He looks like an expert." Gu Jingze shook his head. "They're exaggerating too much. Even though Dongzi is quite impressive, he's too young after all, so he still needs training. He still needs time to actually become a qualified personal guard." Lin Che looked at him. "Your expectations are way too high." Gu Jingze said, "To the ordinary person, a person like him who has been through special training is very impressive. However, he can only make progress after actually being through a few battles. It's still too early for Dongzi." Lin Che said, "Alright then, but I myself thought that Dongzi was already very impressive when I watched the video. How could he catch me so quickly?" Gu Jingze pressed his forehead against hers and said, "Every security guard and personal guard can do this. If they could not even do such a simple move, what use would there be in spending so much capital to nurture them? Tisk. Seriously. Anyway, I think that he's very brilliant." Lin Che continued, "Everyone around you is like this, so of course, you don't feel the same way. However, it's actually my first time seeing this. Everyone around you will be like this in the future too. Get used to it quickly. He tapped her forehead and said. By the way, Gu Jingze, do you still remember that girl called Yang Lingxin? She was with me for some time before that incident happened, Lin Che said. Gu Jingze nodded. I remember. Why? She's back. HN. Lin Che said. She changed her name to Yang Ling and she's active in the film industry right now. Gu Jingze narrowed his eyes. I remember. I already threw her into jail and she won't be released for the rest of her life. Anyway, I don't know why she's been released from jail now. Gu Jingze said, let me handle it. Hey, don't do that. I didn't tell you this so that you can handle this urgently. In any case, it doesn't matter even if she's in the industry. I can't possibly be afraid of her. I told you because I find it strange. Don't you think there's definitely a reason why she could get out of jail? I reckon the person who let her out is far from ordinary. But why was she chosen to be released? There are so many women in jail, so why was she chosen? Gu Jingze narrowed his eyes. You mean to say that someone deliberately released her? Yes, even though there are many coincidences in this world, I think that the Gu family is ultimately different from ordinary people. Many of the coincidences in the Gu family were caused by people. Gu Jingze remained silent for a long time before nodding and looking at Lin Che. I didn't think that you actually knew how to think. How mean, I always knew how to. Lin Che said. Gu Jingze said, I didn't realize it at all before this. That's because I'm too lazy to use my brain. If I use my brain, you won't have anything to do. I'm being considerate of you. I'm afraid that you'll feel inferior once I think. Lin Che recalled that she seemed to have been praised, so she felt more and more proud. Gu Jingze smiled tenderly as he looked at her. He felt that Lin Che really frustrated him and made him happy at the same time. He could not help his urge to smile when he looked at her proud expression. Yes, thank you, Madam Gu, for being considerate of me. No problem, it's fine as long as you don't call me stupid in the future. Gu Jingze shook his head, but he had already committed Yang Lingxin's matter to memory. Lin Che said, I think that you can slowly investigate this matter. If it's a grand scheme, then it may not be appropriate to alert the enemy right now too. That's right, although Yang Lingxin is a minor character, we still have to check up on the people backing her up. Because of these hot topics, Lin Che's reality show, Traveling Core, immediately rose through the ranks of the trending topics. Thereafter, the production crew realized that everyone was really looking forward to Traveling Core. Especially after Lin Che had said that the production crew was too poor, the production crew felt that this was pretty good too. As a result, they decided to make the production crew even poorer. They publicized the fact that the production crew was very poor and hoped that everyone would help them out if they saw the celebrities participating in the show. Everyone found it funny when they saw it and kept leaving various suggestions on the official Weibo page. Within a short time, the reality show had already whetted the appetite of many people before it had even officially started filming. On the other hand, the production crew for Let's Travel Together felt slightly upset. They did not expect this competing program to actually receive so much attention. However, it was fortunate that the level of attention on their program did not decrease much. After all, they were a long-running program that everyone still looked forward to immensely. Following this, both productions began planning for the first day of filming. While Lin Che was busy on her end, Gu Jingze began looking through Yang Lingxin's personal details. Indeed, Yang Lingxin had already gotten out of prison. She had been released from prison due to her status as a foreign resident. Thereafter, she changed her name and identity abroad. Until now, she remained a foreigner. Qin Hao said to Gu Jingze, Sir, we've investigated the matter. The company that did this is called Barui Corporation. It's a company registered in M Nation. Does this company have some grudge against us? We didn't discover any grudges. The two companies don't usually interact and have never collaborated either. But we don't know if there have ever been any problems with its subsidiary companies. Gu Jingze shook his head. It couldn't have been a small issue. They took such great pains to get her out of prison and even specially started nurturing her. It is absolutely not because of a small issue. It must be some secret scheme and the motive must be something very serious too. But we don't know what it is for the time being. Hand me the details of the person in charge of Barui Corporation. Qin Hao put the documents down and said from beside him, Sir, the president of Barui Corporation is an Asian who lived in M Nation from a young age, but his wife seems to be from C Nation. I heard that his relationship with his wife is extremely good. He is very doting and brings her with him everywhere he goes. He acts according to her instructions and is completely obedient to her. Who's his wife? Her photograph is here. Qin Hao pointed it out to Gu Jingze. Chapter 899. Since you're not killing me, it means that you believe me. Gu Jingze picked up the photograph. It was a photograph taken from a distance. The person in the photograph was a slender woman with a pretty face. Although her face was not shown clearly, he could sense that she was probably a very graceful beauty. Her age was not visible from her face. It made him feel that she was probably very old but had maintained her appearance particularly well. However, for some reason, he felt that this woman looked a little familiar. He did not know if he was mistaken. He wondered where he had seen her. Gu Jingze looked up. Are you sure that I haven't met her before? Qin Hao said, Of course I'm sure, sir. She left the country at a very young age and never returned to C Nation ever again. Gu Jingze frowned and put down the photograph. In doing this, he must have some motive. Get someone to continue following him and investigate. Yes, sir. By the way, there's still Mr. Mo's matter. Come to think of this troublesome person. Gu Jingze sat there and stretched his hand out to massage his brow. How is his recovery in the hospital coming along? He's recovering very quickly. All right, you can leave. At Chen Yucheng's hospital. Mo Jinyan stood there while looking outside. Your leg just recovered. Are you sure you're okay standing? Gu Jingze's voice traveled from behind. Mo Jinyan turned around to look at Gu Jingze. Don't worry. If I couldn't recover from something like this, I would have probably died a long time ago, Mo Jinyan said. Gu Jingze moved his hand across the things in the room. The facilities here were not bad. Apart from the fact that he could not go out, his life here was probably very good. Mo Jinyan turned to look at him. Did you investigate the matter already? What I said was true, right? Gu Jingze said, It's still not certain. Since you haven't killed me until today, it means that you probably believe me. That's right. In my heart, I do want to trust you. But you have a bad record. Now, I'm not sure whether trusting you is the right choice either. Mo Jinyan looked at him. Gu Jingze, if I really wanted to kill you, I would have had plenty of opportunities on the numerous days we were alone together in the past. You're right, I hate the Gu family and I hate Gu Shand even more. I even hate your father. But I indeed have no grudges against you. I can differentiate right from wrong and I know that you didn't know about this either. Gu Jingze leaned towards one side and looked at him. Tell me, who is your mother? Mo Jinyan shook his head. I don't know. Then, who saved you, adopted you, and told you everything? It's Yun Kuoshan's older brother, Yun Kuohai, he said. Gu Jingze smiled coldly. The Yun family. Mo Jinyan said, I have always called him my adoptive father until I was 10 and went out alone to train myself. From then on, I met him merely a few times and only contacted him by phone. Everything I have now has nothing to do with the Yun family. He provided me funds at the very beginning, but I attained everything thereafter on my own, so you don't have to equate me with the Yun family. Gu Jingze said, I will reserve the judgment on this. Gu Jingze was just about to leave. He suddenly saw that someone wanted to barge in. Of course, the Gu family's security guards immediately blocked him. Meanwhile, the person outside stood there and refused to leave. Gu Jingze looked outside. Inside, Mo Jinyan immediately took 2 steps forward. He's one of my subordinates. They must be looking for me regarding something important. I want to meet them. Otherwise, if something actually happens and stirs up trouble, it may not be a good thing for you either. Gu Jingze raised his eyebrows and looked at him. Then, he nodded in agreement. He glanced meaningfully at the guards outside, who then let the man outside in. The person who came in had already handed over all his weapons and came in empty-handed. When he saw Mo Jinyan, he quickly bowed in greeting before hastily saying, "Boss, you told us to watch Miss Mew. Today, someone barged into her house calling himself her husband. We stopped him but we were obstructed by the policeman he brought in." Mo Jinyan paused. Gu Jingze narrowed his eyes while listening. Mo Jinyan looked at Gu Jingze. "Gu Jingze, you promised back then that you would protect her safety. You won't go back on your word now, right?" Gu Jingze looked at him. "I won't go back on my word. I want to go and take a look. I'll send someone there to deal with it." "She's not your woman. If you deal with it, I won't be at ease. She's Lin Che's friend. I won't sit around and do nothing." Doing nothing and dealing with it properly are two different things. "I'm worried," Mo Jinyan continued. "Aren't you afraid that my subordinates will tell Lin Che if you stop me? We'll see if she will have any issues with you if they tell her that you don't care about Mu Feiren's life because of your tiff with me." "You." Gu Jingze's gaze changed. However, he indeed attached more importance to things when they involved Lin Che. He glared at Mo Jinyan before waving his hand as a gesture of silent affirmation. "But my subordinates must follow along and yours must move to the back." Mo Jinyan said, "Since I've already shown you my cards, I haven't thought about escaping either. I can eat and drink all I want here and the treatment is the best in the country. I'm so well taken care of here. Why would I leave?" Once Mo Jinyan was done speaking, he waved his head immediately as a gesture for someone to bring his coat to him. Then, he walked out in large strides. Gu Jingze hinted with his eyes for his subordinates to catch up with them directly. Although Black Hawk's subordinates had already made their way over, as Mo Ding was indeed Mu Feiren's lawful husband, it was reasonable for him to bring the police with him. It was not appropriate for Black Hawk's subordinates to get into a direct confrontation with the police. This was to prevent people from taking the opportunity to pick a fight with his subordinates since they had caused trouble when he was currently still unable to come out and settle matters. In the room, Mo Ding looked at Mu Feiren. He smiled proudly, looked at Mu Feiren's house, and scoffed. He said, "This place is decorated quite well. Since it looks just right, I should move in here too." Mu Feiren said furiously, "This is my house. You better get out. I'm your husband. Since this is your house, it's also mine." "No way. This place has nothing to do with you at all." "Why not? We're lawfully wedded. Half of your things are mine. Now that my company is in trouble, I need 30 million. I'll leave immediately if you give me 30 million. Otherwise, I'll stay right here and wait for our daughter to come home." Why are you such a scoundrel?" "I'm a scoundrel. First, return the photographs of me and Jingjing. Then, I may discuss with you whether or not I'm a scoundrel. Otherwise, how can you have the cheek to call me a scoundrel when you can do something like that?" "Ha, if you and Wei Jingjing can do such a thing and take photographs, why wouldn't I dare to release it? Besides, I even kindly blurred your faces." "You." After Mu Feiren had released the photos of Wei Jingjing, everyone could guess that it was someone from the entertainment industry even though they did not know who it was. Some of them were familiar with Wei Jingjing and naturally already knew that it was her and Mo Ding. At the moment, Wei Jingjing had a notorious reputation. Right now, she was still hiding at home and did not dare to leave the house. Chapter 900. Get lost. Mo Ding said, "That's enough. Jingjing already knows that she was in the wrong. She should not have provoked you. Putting this matter aside, the issue of money today. Mo Ding, I earned all this money. I earned it through working desperately hard. Mu Feiren, if I didn't nurture you, you would have been nothing. How much support did you give me? Did you have money or power to nurture me? It was more through my own hard work, my non-stop filming, endorsements, and events." Mo Ding stood up and glared at Mu Feiren. For some reason, his company had been attacked and immediately lost 30 million. If he could not reimburse the company with 30 million, it would really be in the red. That was why he had no choice but to ask Mu Feiren for money. After Mu Feiren, the company had pushed out numerous rookies. However, most of them did not achieve anything. Mu Feiren was the only one who became a superstar. The rest of the rookies were in the red. Through attending events, commercial performances and accompanying several rich businessmen to dinner, the money they earned was just enough to cover everyone. There was nothing extra at all. Mo Ding had no choice either. His family was still hastening him to give them money to buy a house before they migrated overseas. As he was hard-pressed, he had no choice but to shamelessly ask Mu Feiren for money. She definitely had money. She had saved up quite a lot over the years. The only issue was whether she would let him spend it. Mu Feiren scoffed. Just give up. I won't give you a single cent. Get out. Mo Ding looked at her. I'm not leaving unless you give me money. Without the company, I can only rely on you to support me. You. Mu Feiren had literally never met such a shameless person. However, the more shameless the person was, the more difficult it was to deal with him. Just then, outside, the police looked at Black Hawk's subordinates. In actual fact, they did not really dare to approach them either. Even though they had given no indication of who they were, they did not seem like good people either. However, the policemen felt that they were ultimately policemen and were not afraid of typical gangsters too. Typical gangsters aside, they were also not afraid of wealthy businessmen who had considerable money. After all, they could only get by through relying on the police. If they did not cooperate with the police, trouble would await them. After many interactions, those wealthy businessmen were very respectful towards the police too. This was so that when something happened, there was nothing like having a man on the spot to smooth the way. As they looked at the row of people, the policeman said, "They're a married couple discussing something inside. What's the point of you being here?" Black Hawk's subordinates looked at the policeman stationed there. They are a married couple, but they are only married at law. That man is not a good person. You let him in just like that. Aren't you being way too irresponsible? If I remember correctly, our laws protecting married women are quite well enforced too. After Gu Jingze came into power, the first thing he did was to protect married women and children. Over the years, numerous laws were put in place. However, as C Nation was a traditional country, after all, many citizens had their culture ingrained in them and had not changed their mindset. They still felt that outsiders should not interfere in matters between a married couple. Quarrels between them were bound to be resolved. At times, however, they did not know that in many cases, arguments between married couples would turn into homicides. Some of them were definitely not simply arguing either but had aspersions cast on their own character. Still, the police dared not interfere with these matters. But nothing has happened here. Listen, there's no sound at all, the policeman said nonchalantly. At this moment, outside, a line of cars drove here at long last. They looked over only to see that those cars actually belonged to the Gu family. They could not help but feel a little disappointed. Why wasn't their boss here? However, thereafter, they saw their comrades following behind as well. The car that was protected in the center drove in first. The first person to get out of the car was Gu Jingze. He was then followed by Black Hawk. Dressed completely in black, others immediately felt as if he gave off a foul and foreboding air. When he alighted, his presence was felt even more strongly. His eyes had an endlessly dark and gloomy aura that made people instinctively feel that the temperature around them had lowered by a few degrees. The two men who were of more or less the same height walked towards them one after another. All the policemen who had initially thought nothing of the matter could not help but come to rapt attention. The moment one of Black Hawk's subordinates saw him, he was about to burst into tears. He quickly walked up to him and said, "Boss. Boss, you're finally here." Black Hawk looked inside. "Where is Mu Feiren?" "Boss, she's inside," Black Hawk's henchman said while pointing inside. Hearing this, Black Hawk's gaze deepened. "What, inside, alone? With that man called Mo Ding?" Black Hawk's expression immediately turned rigid. He clenched his teeth together and pursed his lips. Then, he pushed them aside furiously. "You just left her alone with that bastard." Black Hawk was about to walk in as he spoke. Seeing this, the policeman made a move to block him. However, the moment Black Hawk glared angrily at them, the policemen quickly retracted their hands. Black Hawk simply kicked the door open and walked in. In the living room, Mo Ding was just about to move closer towards Mu Feiren when he looked up only to see Black Hawk walk in. His black coat was still fluttering. Mo Ding's heart seized up when he saw him. You, what are you going to do?" For a moment, Mo Ding was extremely terrified of him. He quickly looked outside and shouted, "Is there anyone outside? Where is the police? Police, this person has violent tendencies. Mu Feiren looked at Black Hawk, who had suddenly come in, and was slightly surprised at the moment. However, she was touched and ran towards Black Hawk. She looked at him. You're here. Black Hawk looked at Mu Feiren and quickly pulled her behind him first. When Mo Ding saw how Mu Feiren gazed at him with her eyes shining, he could not help but feel disgusted. Mu Feiren's eyes shone the moment she saw a man. Black Hawk scoffed. Shout all you want. I'll see which policeman dares to control me. Mo Ding's voice froze and he felt his throat tighten. Who exactly was this man? Apart from being arrogant, he was not even afraid of the police. Mo Ding would admit that he was terrified. He looked at him and said, "This is my family affair. I'm not trying to do anything either. I'm just asking for some money. Our company lost 30 million. Nothing will happen if she just gives me the money. Right now, she even has connections with a prominent figure like you. 30 million is all the more nothing to her. We're a married couple." Hearing this, Mu Feiren could not believe her ears. She said to Mo Ding, "Get lost. 30 million, I won't even give you a cent. All of that money is my hard-earned money. Why should I give it to you?" "Hey, woman," Mo Ding yelled angrily, "at the very least, we were married. You won't even take into account the many years of our relationship." "Relationship? Stop dreaming." Mo Ding looked at Mu Feiren. "Be careful or I'll publicize these things. See how everyone treats your daughter. Wait for people to point fingers at your good daughter and talk behind her back." There was a painful sting in Mu Feiren's nose. Are you human or not?" Black Hawk's eyes turned sharp when he heard what he wanted to do to Union. He lifted his leg and immediately kicked Mo Ding's chest. "What did you say? What are you going to do to Union?" "Ayo.